Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska brushed off a series of critical tweets from President Trump, including one where he promised to campaign against her when she comes up for re-election.
I made the comments that I made. I stand by them. And again, I think it's important that we have a president who is working to bring people together, and tone and words matter. I cannot live in fear of a tweet. That's where I am now.
President Trump's threat to campaign against Senator Murkowski came after Murkowski endorsed the scathing criticism of President Trump's leadership from former Secretary of Defense James Mattis. Senator Murkowski also said she is grappling with whether to support the president in the coming election. First of all, Eddie, I just love the idea of President Trump traveling and trudging through the snows of Juneau, Alaska to campaign against Lisa Murkowski during a Republican primary in a couple of years. But it is such a measure of our times when it's an act of courage to actually speak out as a Republican against President Trump. We heard from a couple of senators in the wake of what happened in the clearing of Lafayette Square, Ben Sasse among them. The argument has always been they fear the president's tweet. They fear a primary if they're viewed as going against President Trump. But I've pointed out previously on this show, a few weeks ago, Ben Sasse won his primary by 50 points, 50 points. So perhaps Republicans should speak their conscience more often and not worry about the tweet or worry about the primary.
You know, Willie, I think you're absolutely right. I'm glad to see Senator Murkowski say that she can't live in fear of a tweet. I'm kind of confused about what she's grappling about in terms of supporting Donald Trump in the upcoming election. But let's be clear. We saw last week our military folk, generals across the board, reject Donald Trump's theater of dictatorship, right? We saw them reject his conscription of the military and his performance of authoritarian power. And we asked the question last week, where are the civilians? Where are the statesmen and women who are responding to Donald Trump's performance, as it were? Where are Republican senators? And we saw that wonderfully disturbing, that's a better way of putting it, that disturbing image of the senators walking past Kasie Hunt without saying a word. Here we have, in some ways, a senator speaking her mind. Let's hope that she acts on it in very concrete ways in order to really, in some ways, protect our democracy from what Donald Trump has been doing and continues to do.
We'll see if some of those senators are emboldened as the president's poll numbers continue to go down. Eugene, your latest piece in the Washington Post is entitled "Democrats, Stop Worrying About Losing. Focus on How You're Likely to Win." Now, Gene, you know Democrats burned by the election of 2016 are going to cringe when they read in June that they're likely to win. So what is your argument to them?
Well, look, the polls are a snapshot, but we got polls over the weekend that show Joe Biden well ahead of Donald Trump in the coming election. If the election were held today, I don't think there's any question that Biden would win overwhelmingly. And the direction that things are going in is not a good direction for Donald Trump. And so first, I think, while not being overconfident, not taking anything for granted, I think we should recognize this. And I think Democrats really should focus on the really important things that will help them win this election, rather than hand wringing, which is a sort of Democratic national pastime. They should focus on, number one, there's this enormous protest movement going on in the streets right now. Some of these protests have been turned into voter registration drives. All of them should be turned into voter registration drives. And the Democratic Party ought to be building not just registering voters, but building a get out the vote machine for Election Day. And second, Democrats should worry about ensuring that Americans can that every American can vote safely in November, and that means voting by mail. That means having enough polling places on Election Day. That means defending our democracy. That should be their focus, and I think the polls will take care of themselves. They seem to be doing that pretty well now.
And again, it's very early, 5 months out. But yes, the polls in this moment anyway do look good for Joe Biden. Long way to go, though. Eddie, as we go to break, I want to play for you what White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, she was asked yesterday if President Trump agrees with Senator Mitt Romney's support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Here's her response.
Yeah, Mitt Romney can say 3 words outside on Pennsylvania Avenue, but I would note this, that President Trump won 8% of the black vote. Mitt Romney won 2% of the black vote.
Yes, President Trump did win 8% of the black vote, Eddie, in the 2016 presidential election. According to exit polls, Mitt Romney won 6% of the black vote, not 2%. As they said, Mitt Romney, of course, is running against Barack Obama in that election. But what an upside-down world we're living in, Eddie Glaude, when you're bragging about losing 92% of the black vote in an election.
It is a bizarro world for those DC comic fans. Everything is turned upside down. I think whenever Donald Trump and his minions open their mouths about race, we need to close our ears. These folks have nothing to offer in this discussion. We're trying to build a new America. They're trying to hold on to an old one. We need to understand that for what it is.
Might have been an opportunity there to embrace some of the peaceful movement that's happening in the streets. Instead, an attack on Mitt Romney, and again, bragging about losing 92% of the black vote in 2016. Still ahead on Morning Joe, the latest on the big stories today: an economy in recession, an ongoing pandemic, and a national gut check on race relations. This on the day that George Floyd is laid to rest. Morning Joe is coming right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.